Alright, so this next tutorial is on the concept of introspection. So go ahead and do the temperature conversion on your own if you want more practice, so you can have some homework for that one. Temperature conversion is just like the calculator. It's just two buttons. One from Fahrenheit to Celsius and Celsius to Fahrenheit. And it just takes a string, converts it to a number, does some addition on the number or calculation on the number, and then converts it back to a string and sticks it back on the UI. Same thing as a tip calculator. So, dynamic binding. Objects are objects. Well, all objects have the same properties associated with them, or some of them do. So Objective-C allows dynamic binding to occur. We're going to take advantage of that in this tutorial. A feature that makes it possible to postpone decisions about classes we're dealing with at runtime, and instead deal with them later on. So in order to make this kind of decision, you need to be able to determine exactly what class or classes we're working with, so we can ask the object, what are you? I'm a button, I'm a label, I'm a view. And then depending upon what it is, do something to it. So now you're going to realize why you couldn't put a text property on or nothing was being sent to it because there was no sender action, and you were treating an object like a certain object, or why I always put ID. I changed the ID to UI text field, call it a text field instead of an ID, because then you're stamping the object with an identity instead of treating it like a generic object. So let's see this work kind of like the categories. It's hard to see what it's going to do until you actually see it work. So this one's called introspection. Go ahead and open up a brand new Xcode project. This is interesting. My projects went away, so they went out of the recent. I like that. Single view application. Introspection. Or introspect. Let's just call it introspect. iPhone. Next. I'll save it on the desktop. Why not? Now, we're going to need to do a lot to the storyboard because this is all about, oh, we don't want summaries. This is all about finding out what objects are without looking at the objects. So we're going to create an interface. We're going to drag a view. I'm going to show you the view in a few minutes. Drag a view to the library, to the window. Put 8 labels in the view. You should also have a large white square, which is in the UI view object, with 8 labels inside of it. All of the components are on the main view. So the view looks like this. This is the view. We have a view inside the view. So let me show you how to make this easier for yourself. Change the background color. I'm changing mine to green because it's my favorite color right now. If you type in view, you see we got a view, we got table view, image view, text view, web view, main view, scroll view, picker view, view. We got one that just says view on it. Just put a view on there. See, this represents a rectangular region in which it draws and receives events. Well, that's what this is. By default, we have a view. So I'm going to drag a view and stick it on the view, but I'm not going to make it stick up the whole thing. I only want it to take up half of it, or part of it. So I'm going to make it smaller, and I'm going to stick the view right here. So I got a view and I got a view. You're gonna, how do I know I got a view? You see this little button down here on the far left-hand corner? I'm putting my mouse around it right now. Everyone clicks on it accidentally and then they go, oh, how do we get rid of it? And I've been telling you all semester how to get rid of it. Now we want it, because it's going to show us what's out here. So if we click on it, we see view. So I got a green view and I got another view. So if I make this view, let me make this view a different color. Ooh, let's make it yellow. No, that's the tank color. Let's make it yellow this way. Now I got a green view and a yellow view. They don't actually blend colors, do they? Yeah. So there's one view. There's the other view. So some people in the past tutorials have they've actually wired their views. You can wire your view too, but we don't have to worry about wiring because we're just going to look at these objects anyway. So we'll see what happens with this. So one of the things, let me see where we're going with this. We got a view and we got a view. And you can see over here, I got the view and I got the view. Stick 8 labels inside of the view. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 8 labels. And stick 1 label outside. So go ahead and start populating with a bunch of labels. So 1 label I'm going to stick out here, and I'm going to put fancy title on it. It doesn't really matter what you call it. Fancy title. Here, I'll use the proper English, the fancy title. There we go. I got the fancy title out here. I'm going to center it, make the font a little bit bigger, stretch it out a little bit. There we go, I got my fancy title. Looking pretty good. Now I'm going to stick 8 of these suckers in here, and I'm just going to leave them alone. We don't have to change the labels. In fact, we want there to be text on them because we're going to change a few things about it. I'm going to spread them out this way, though. 1, 2, 3. Or I guess I can put them closer together. This one got out of line. There we go. I don't know, I could spend all day beautifying it. Actually, I can highlight them all and move them all over. Yeah, that looks good. Highlight this list and move it over. Now I'm just playing with my new mouse. That's why I like that's why I like external mice, by the way. So much easier than using the trackpad. Okay. I don't know how much more beautiful I can make this. I'm buying myself some time while you guys are finishing up as well. Okay. I think I have to put some buttons out here too. 4 buttons. So go ahead and stick out 4 buttons. Test 1, test 2, test 3, and test 4. Turning into button. Let's see. I got test 1. Test 2. Test 3. Test 4. Oh, are we going to do attendance? Yes. Okay. Let me pause this then. Okay, let's resume. So we've got our view inside of our view. We've got a bunch of labels. We got a bunch of buttons. We got another label up here. And just in case you didn't know, you can actually move stuff around in here. You can click on stuff and move them to different spots if you wanted to. Without using the visual GUI, you can actually use the side panel here to actually, the view controller scene, to actually relocate things. But I'm going to get rid of the little scene because I don't need that anymore. And I'm going to go back to the tutorial and see what's going on. So let's see. Looks like I got everything. So now all we need to do is wire the 4 buttons. So we're going to have, I'm just going to call mine test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4 and get rid of this pressed. I don't want to call it pressed. So let's go ahead and open up the little tuxedo icon and change it over to the vcontroller.h and wire the touchdown or one of the touch controls for each one of the test buttons. There's 4 of them. So if you right mouse click, do you guys hear an alarm?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, car alarm? That's a pretty loud car. Let's see, touchdown. I'm going to call this one test 1. I'm going to take the type where it says ID and I'm going to switch it over to UI button. You're going to see one in a few minutes, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to show you, this is the introspection part of it, but it doesn't really matter. These are just the buttons that are just going to be used as buttons. We're not going to try and do anything with it, but I'm actually going to put it on UI button. And let's see, 2 is a touchdown. Wire them all to separate methods because they're all going to do something else or do something different. So touchdown 2, test 2, test 3, let's see, touchdown, test 3, and then we got test 4. Okay, so I have my 4, looks like I got more than that. I don't know why it took so long. I got my 4 buttons there. So let's go back to my cheat sheet over here and see what I'm going to do next. So we're only declaring action methods for the 4 buttons. We're not going to wire anything else. So we don't need any of the, no more IB outlets or actions for anything. Instead, we're going to use them as their objects. So we're going to find the controls in the view by inspecting the properties of the objects that are inside the main view using an introspection technique. Which is the purpose of this tutorial, actually. So here is the button pressed code. Let's just hope that this pastes and cuts okay. Button number 1, let me make it a little bit bigger. Maybe I can just read it from here and then deal with the, oh, let's see. Actually, let's just cut it. Let's just go for it. I'm going to take test 1 and work with this one first, and then we'll see what it does. So flip over to viewcontroller.m, and I'm looking at test 1 button, and I'm pasting the code in. And of course I'm going to have cut and paste errors, but let me just fix it here. Alright, so the 4 event actually pasted out okay. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you see what I'm looking at. So for UI view, and we're going to say a view, in self view subviews. So we're looking at the views. So it's a for loop. It's an unusual for loop, but it says, because these are all members, these objects that are all members of this particular project, when you put them on the UI, we're going to go through the views. If the view, so this is like saying for integer I is equal to 0, I is less than 1, or I is less than 10, I plus plus. Well, it's kind of very similar to that. So UI view, a view, in self view, subviews for all of the views. If the view is a member of the class UI label class, so if it's a label, then a view background color, let me just take out, change the background color of the UI color to a red color. So we're going through all of the subviews of the view, and we're going to change the UI color to red color. Ah, look at that, it pasted. So we can actually test then number 1. So I'm going to run the test 1 button to see what happens with that. Wow, it got quiet in here. Look at that. The background color got changed to red. But none of these changed because we didn't go inside of the subview. So all we have to do then to go inside of the subview of the view, so we got the outer view, and we looked at the subviews of the outer views. If it was a UI label, change the background color to red. So if I had another label out here, in fact, watch this. You don't have to do this, but I'm trying to demonstrate a point. If I pulled out another label, and I stuffed another label down here, and I called it another label, or whatever I wanted to call it actually, and then I run it again, the little label down here is going to have a background color of red as well. So, because it's a label. So, whoops, it's off my screen. Hold on one second. Why are you off my screen? I'm going to stick them right here so I can see it. There we go. So, let's see. Now they're both. Anything that's a label from the loop, or if I loop there, all the labels are going to be. So I'm going to leave the label there. We'll just leave it alone. So here, I'll make it look a little bit better. All right, so let's go on to button number 2. So button number 1 was taking all the labels. So button number 2, for the UI view, same loop as before. If it's kind of class UI view, if it's a view, which we stuck, remember that subview we stuck on there, then change the background color to blue. So I'm going to copy this one. I see when I do this, I see these little arrows here. So I'm thinking those are those special characters I have to keep removing. So let's see. So this is test 2. I'm going to change the background color of the view to blue. Now, let's see. Paste. So for UI view and subview, if the view is a kind of UI view, then change the background color to the blue color. Blue color. And see what I did here to introduce some errors. Oh, I probably took out the semicolon. There we go. Oops. Let's just make this a little bit bigger. Well, that's not the problem. The problem is I got a special character here. Well, I just leave it alone. Let's just make sure it works. So now the view background color, and then we'll just paste the other 2 in there. We'll see if that works too. So the view itself is going to be blue color, UI color, blue color for test 2. Well, look at that. They're all views. So it wasn't just this view. It's all the views. So there's a hierarchy here. We have view groups, then we have views, then we have different types of view, subviews. So we have an image view, label, text, but all these little things are subviews of the same hierarchy. All of these guys belong to the same object. So they're all part of the object of the view. So long story, or the view group is above it, but yeah. It's all belonging to the same. So test 1 is going to change the background color. Test 2 is going to change everything to blue. So let's go on and see what else we got. Number 3, we're going to set the text to hello. So for each one of the subviews that can perform, and this is the interesting part here. So if we find a view, and in the view it can perform a select set text, which means there's a set text method part of that view, then it will run. If there's no set text, we can't set the text, so it's not going to run. So on this particular one, let me just copy and paste it and stick it in. This one's going to set the text of the labels because the labels have a set text method associated with them. So let's go in here, paste it in here, and get rid of all the special characters from the paste job. So for the UI view and the subviews, can perform selector, and the selector, that's the method that's going to be running. So if it can perform the selector set text with sender, whoever's sending it is going to perform that. And then we're going to set the text, a view set text, set it to hello. So let's just see why this is here. There's a stray character. I have a stray white character, a non-white character in here somewhere. Probably here, actually. Well, the stray white characters don't seem to be posing a problem. But let's see. So this was test number 3. So test number 3, let's take a look here. Oh, no, the stuff went away. Hello. Because on the outer view, because this is a view, can't set the text of a view, but on the outer view we are able to set these 2 guys to hello because they're both labels and they both have set text methods to them. So the other ones still work. but this one actually is test number 3 sets it to a hello. Test number 4 I think is going to change the view inside of the view, the objects inside of the components. But let's just take a look real quick. So test number 4, so if it's a UI view class, remember that view we dragged over? Inside of the UI view class, for all of the labels inside of the UI view class, then we're going to set the background color to green. Well, the background color is yellow, so we'll be setting it to green for all of the labels. So let's cut and paste this one and stick it in here. So basically the point of this tutorial is to show you that you can get at the components without actually making properties out of them. You're just going through a loop of the view and taking each one of the view components and seeing, is it a member of this class? If it is, then do this. Or is this method appropriate? Can we apply this method? If it does apply, then do it. Otherwise, you're going to get an error message if you try to apply a method to an object that doesn't exist, or an object that doesn't have that method associated with it. So here we're going to take the label and we're going to set the background color to green. And this was the 4th button. So let's take a look. Mine seems to be running with all the special non-blank characters in there. So all the labels inside of the view. So there's an outer loop for the view. So the outer loop here says inside of the view, and then we have another for loop inside of the view. So once we found a view, which we did, here's another view, set the background color of the UI labels. So for UI labels in the view, set the background color to green. So we have the background colors being set with the label number 4. So long story short, you're getting at the components by what the components are, and you're asking the component what it is before you actually do something to it. So here, it's just a matter of creating view components, sticking all the views in there, and then changing everything. So how this would work in a real application is you can make everything hide, or you can make the property window hide and something else show, depending upon what the user was doing, so whatever they were clicking on. So everybody get yours to work. Should work pretty simple. So that is actually, I'm going to take this, well, I'll just leave the other label here just because. So I put it in there. Anyway, that was the introspection. So I will leave you with that one and move on. So, okay, I was just making sure it still worked.